From Up North News, I'm Pat Kreitlow, and this is a letter from the editor. I hope you've had a good weekend, especially Saturday. It was so beautiful across Wisconsin, a great time to be outside, maybe some yard work, maybe a bike ride, a walk, maybe a drive, but hardly a great time to be stuck in your car for a long line of traffic, feeling like you're in a parking lot, or that you really were in a church parking lot, waiting in a long line for food assistance. I was a volunteer at one in Barron County over the weekend. You've seen similar lines all across America. We already knew there were hungry children and hungry families in America. That's never not been crazy, considering we make enough food to feed the entire planet. But now there are so many more families needing extra help to feed their families. We have Depression-era unemployment, and like the early days of the last Depression with the Hoover administration, we seem to have a federal government deferring to the whims of private charity lest people become reliant on government help. It's so easy to believe your own lofty political ideology when your stomach is full. Now, at this particular one where people would pay a little bit but then get a whole lot in surplus groceries, they'd get about 150 people a year ago. It had grown to 250 people at the start of this year. And over this past weekend, the demand had grown to nearly 400 parcels of food. The times are hard. People need help, and it's good that charities exist like this for individual and corporate donations to be turned into food assistance. But making people line up and confront the stigma of needing charity is hardly a way to run the richest nation on earth. No child seeks to live in poverty. No child seeks to be hungry. No child should have to spend Saturday morning stuck in a car for over an hour waiting for some excess food when there are alternatives to how society can provide a path out of poverty through food, through education, through health care, and yes, through cash when times are bad and jobs are evaporating. And yet, here we are in a pandemic with almost 100,000 Americans dead and close to 2 million sickened, hearing the same old excuses about why we shouldn't do more to at least provide the bootstraps we so often hear those in poverty should be hoisting. Healthcare for struggling families? Well, that's welfare, we're told. Education without a lifetime of debt? Well, what would the banks say to their shareholders? And direct financial help for the disadvantaged? Well, that just makes people dependent on government charity. Those lines, those excuses, so tired, so easily disproven, and often masking someone's real motivations, would mean more if they were coming from a class of self-made men and women who practice what they preach. But odds are they too benefited from government spending, taxes invested to provide what they couldn't do for themselves exclusively. And yet you don't see them addicted to someone else's money now that they work for the government themselves, right? Or do you? Where would they be without the millions and millions of dollars offered up by political action committees, corporate contributions, shadowy issue ads from groups with generic names, and of course, direct financial help from billionaires? And the one guy who is single-handedly holding up stability and security for families, for strapped local government, for small businesses, the guy holding up this next round of assistance, is Mitch McConnell, who received $25 million in campaign donations so far just this year. That's a lot of groceries. So as we head into another round of figuring out whether Americans who used to struggle paycheck to paycheck should now continue to struggle from aid bill to aid bill debate in Washington, let's make sure one message is delivered to the politicians who think getting a check from others or from the government is equivalent to dependency. You go first. In Congress, give up your steady stream of millions from political action committees. And in the legislature, stop the parade of $1,000 checks, or at least require yourself to get a $1,000 donation from a constituent before you get each $1,000 from outside your district, so you appreciate how many people in your district don't have $1,000 to give. Give up that addiction before you claim all the people asking for assistance are dependent. You've met only once since this crisis began in Madison. And if anyone's shown a dependency on getting money while not showing up for work, well, politician, heal thyself. That's a letter from the editor. I'm Pat Kreitlow.